crypto warriors, changing our world day by day. The way of the crypto warriors, can't rely on the bankers, no way.
Good morning, Bix Weir, roadrunner.com. Good morning, Hornets. Here's your sip of chaga coffee. All right, yes, the world's falling apart. I put up a private road discussion yesterday. A huge change coming in the commodity sector and the exchanges, cliff high, big Veritasium potentials here. Go check that out at the Road to Ruta. When you're on the private road, click on, I think it's about the third of, right here, Road to Ruta Uncensored, and you will get that one. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here that I can't talk about on YouTube, so I won't talk about it. If you want to take a peek behind the scenes of what's going on in silver, go check that out. Silver price is rigged every day, every trade, doesn't matter. They can put the price down to minus $40. If you don't believe me, just look at oil. What they did with oil, you can do with silver. If you have computers and derivatives, you control the entire thing, the entire complex. And I was watching a video the other day of, it's from the 2022 Vancouver Resource Investment Conference. These are conferences I get kicked out of because I bring up that these CEOs are supposed to be taking care of their product. They just aren't. But this is a panel on silver with Rick Rule, who I think he retired as the CEO of Sprott, Jeffrey Christian, Jim Lewis of Wall Street, the Wall Street Silver guys, and then Jose Garcia, who owns a silver mine. But they actually talk about, usually you weren't allowed to talk about this at these conferences, but they talk about silver manipulation. And I'm going to play, it's about 5 minutes, I'm going to play parts of it and talk about what these people are saying, which is complete. Other than Jim, Rick Rule gets it completely wrong. Jeffrey Christian, we know, is a criminal. And Jim Lewis got it right, but then Jeff's counter to his discussion of JP Morgan being caught rigging the silver market is completely ridiculous, and I'll go over why. Here we go.
Okay, now it's a silver panel. We have to touch on the manipulation conversation a little bit, just for you, Jeff. Rick, why don't I start with you? Because I think you've been asked, is there manipulation in the silver market? And if I got you right, what you said is that there's manipulation in any free market. It's just inherent. So could you, if I got that right, could you provide?
I would say that would be true, but there's also regulators to stop the manipulation when it's on a large scale. Right? So just by saying there's manipulation in every market doesn't discount the fact that there's massive manipulation and the price of silver has been controlled for decades. I would say over a century. Anyway.
Context to that, and then I want to open up the panel a little bit.
I mean, I came of financial age in Vancouver, so I understand rigged markets, right? The Vancouver market in the 1970s was basically 300 rigs. Right. Well, now the youngsters are just less good at rigging. They have the same morality. They just don't have the same skill set that the old people had. So I believe that all markets are rigged, but only in the very near term. I think the trading desks. Does spoofing exist in the LIBOR market? Does spoofing exist in the U.S. Treasury market? Does spoofing exist in the silver market? Of course. The idea that there is some long-time, thoroughgoing conspiracy to depress the price of silver when a rising U.S. dollar was doing that all by itself, I don't understand. I mean, who's going to put together this conspiracy? The government? They can't deliver the mail. They can't educate the kids. The Trilateral Commission? Give me a...
Rick, I'm sorry to tell you you're wrong. There are factions within the government that can keep a secret and can rig a market for over 100 years. I've proven it a million times. Gatta's proven it. Ted Butler's proven it. Go to the Road to Ruta website. Look up the Manhattan Project. That was 80-year conspiracy of hiding 3 billion ounces of silver within the government. This was the government doing it. 3 billion ounces that went into making the first atomic bomb out of the U.S. Treasury. The Treasury had no silver, and the conspiracy was kept the entire time. The secrets are kept the entire time. If you don't think your government, the U.S. government, can't keep secrets, get yourself some night vision goggles and see what's flying up there in the middle of the sky. I mean, he's completely wrong. And this was, I mean, I respect Sprott. I respect what they do. But here's the problem with a lot of these guys who run companies, silver mining companies. They don't dig. They don't go deep enough. They hear conspiracy theory and they run away like a scared rabbit. And that's what I'm getting at right here at Rick.
A break. The international Jewish conspiracy. I mean, come on, who's going to do this, right? Who's going to do this? And why would they have worked so hard to do it in the period 1982 to 2022 when it was happening all by itself?
That didn't answer the question. Of course, all the other factors were very, very pro-silver, going crazy. That's a fact. The degradation of the U.S. dollar, the shortage of silver all around, the stopping of creating silver eagles. All that stuff creates, I mean, Rick should take what he's saying and say, oh my God, all this stuff has happened, and yet we're 50% or 45% of the all-time high from 1980. See, this is the problem. These guys just can't get their heads around that there is a grand conspiracy. There is a gigantic effort to control the prices of everything, especially silver.
Now, is there a situation where somebody could establish a position in the futures market that was highly leveraged 6 months out, 12 months out, and then spoof in the physical market, do a whole bunch of selling overnight to depress the physical price so that they could monetize long-term leverage contracts? Sure, it happens in every other market. So it makes absolute sense that I mean, I remember in the 1970s when I'm certain that gold and silver markets were manipulated up because it was the easiest way to manipulate them. When it became easier to manipulate them down in the near term, that's what happened. A thoroughgoing manipulation? I mean, I don't know any manipulators who are that good.
Well, he was proven wrong. I mean, flat out wrong. The JP Morgan $920 million fine was for manipulation of what he was just talking about, spoofing, over 8 years. Over 8 years, and they admitted it. 8 years of spoofing, ongoing manipulation. 8 years. This is an ongoing thing, and it wasn't just JP Morgan. This was RICO charges were brought, meaning it was a conspiracy to commit crimes. 2 or more people. It was, I think, 4 different banks that have all paid fine and admitted to it. So I don't get why the CEOs of these silver companies, although Rick is now retired, I believe, cannot grasp the concept that there's an ongoing long-term manipulation of the silver market. It's unfathomable that they can't figure this shit out.
All right. Anybody want to add color or context to that?
I would add, JP Morgan was fined $920 million last year for manipulation. That's not a slap on the wrist. That's a $1 billion fine. That's pretty significant. And it's probably still ongoing. And it's just sort of the cost of doing business for some of these metals desks. They're making profits on probably exceeding those fines. It's just something they build into the cost of business at the.
Bravo, Jim. Jim Lewis of Wall Street Silver. Bravo. You brought it up. But he kind of plays it down. It's not a little thing that happened. This was the largest fine in commodity history by far. I think it was 4 times as large as any other fine. Any other fine. And it happened over 10 years, and it was over 8 to 10 years is what they said. And it was tens of thousands of instances of market manipulation. Tens of thousands with multiple people. This is not a little thing. And listen to what Jeffrey Christian says, how he tries to blow it off.
At this point, they all probably do it to some extent. It probably doesn't get caught most of the time, probably gets caught rarely. But when they catch them, they feel they got to make an example out of someone. And that's where you saw the JP Morgan.
Now mind you, during these 8 years, JP Morgan was under investigation by the CFTC for rigging markets. So we know that the CFTC is in on the con. There's no way they could have missed this when they're sitting on their desks. And the spoofing part was just a tiny part. It's the way JP, remember, this was a negotiated settlement. It wasn't. They didn't. They had to plead guilty, but it's ongoing too. There is currently still things going on that they screwed up with J.P. Morgan. It is not over for them. And by the way, they violated their deferred prosecution agreement already, so it could be all back on the table at some point. But you got to listen to what Jeffrey Christian says, because he really tries to downplay tens of thousands of instances of market manipulation over a vast amount of time.
$920 million fine last year.
Got it. All right. Jeff?
Sure. I mean, you have to start by saying, you asked us, is the market manipulated? And then, Rick, I think I basically agree with you. All free markets are
You can't say the word manipulated.
vulnerable to spoofing and other things. And, when the GATA started, it was conspiracy with the capital letters. It was this grand conspiracy of central bankers and governments and major bullion banks to suppress the gold price. And then it became conspiracy, lowercase. And then it was manipulation. And the fines that J.P. Morgan got were predicated on two factors: spoofing by J.P. Morgan traders that were not properly supervised. So most of the fine that J.P. Morgan got was for non-supervision of traders.
Now, first of all, nowhere in the Department of Justice, the fine was that laid out, that it was mostly for non-supervision. Most of the fine went to non-supervision. That's bullshit. He's making that shit up. But he goes on.
Not just in silver, but in silver and in gold and bonds and currencies and equity derivatives.
There was no mention of equity derivatives at all in the indictment or in the deferred prosecution agreement. None.
Back to what you said, if it's a free market, someone's going to try to figure out how to rig it. Look at mining stocks. Anyway.
That hurts in this audience.
So now you're saying, okay, spoofing. And the third thing that J.P. Morgan, and the reason Morgan's fine was so big, was that the SEC, because it was mostly equities and regulated securities.
It was not equities. Nowhere in the prosecution did it say equities.
As opposed to commodities that they were found to be guilty of. SEC said, you guys created.
It specifically says gold and silver derivatives, which is the CFTC, which is the COMEX. Specifically.
An environment that encouraged spoofing, and then you didn't supervise to avoid it.
Right.
So does spoofing exist? Absolutely. We did a large project on a guy who was accused of spoofing the palladium market. And we looked at his trades, and there was no measurable effect on the price. So we gave them this massive, probably the biggest data study ever on a futures contract. And they said, okay. And then the guy settled and he pled guilty because they had the tapes of him telling his floor brokers, hit the market hard.
Look at the little bastard smiling. Let me ask you a question. Jeffrey Christian is claiming that spoofing doesn't really affect the price. It's not a big deal. Okay, let's just take him at his word there. Why for 10 years did J.P. Morgan and friends do it? And why did they do it tens of thousands of times if it doesn't make any difference? He's lying. He's a criminal. He belongs in jail with his friends at the banks.
Tried to manipulate the market. He tried to push it down at the close or push it up on the close on other days. And the reality is he was guilty of trying to spoof the market, but he failed.
All right, I want to pivot now to, this is an investment conference after all.
Well, there you go. There you go. I think Jim did a great job, although he wasn't given much time. All he says is, hey, what's there left to prove market manipulation? You have the largest bank in the world busted for market manipulation, fined 4 times what any other manipulation has done in history, except just recently when Glencore got nailed for, I think it was $1.4 billion. Remember, Glencore is the Mark Rich company, but that was oil market manipulation, much, much bigger market. So what else? Jim got it right. What else do you need to prove other than everybody admitting they were rigging the market tens of thousands of times. And Jeffrey Christian, who has been the most staunch advocate, claiming that anybody who claims manipulation is a tinfoil hat guy, that whole panel was laughing about manipulation. Oh, manipulation lasts in every market. And it's just a short blip thing. This is 8 years, busted for 8 years of market manipulation, tens of thousands of times. I mean, what gene are they missing that they don't understand what's going on here? Anyway, I'm gonna be on Jean-Claude, my friend Jean-Claude over at Beyond Mystic 2. When is that? Beyond Mystic 2. Oh, he's on 3. Excuse me. Right here. There it is. I will be on with them. I don't even know when it is. On Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Pacific Time. So I'm going to be there at 12. I'm talking to Jenny at 10, and then moving on to Jean-Claude. We're going to talk silver. We're going to go deep down that silver rabbit hole. I'll probably reveal who I think is the silver manipulator that I've already told the Road to Ruta members. Road to Ruta private road members are so far ahead of anybody else. You guys get it. You know. So go check that out. Real interesting stuff coming in. We're closely monitoring the gold purchases of Russia. If Janet Yellen tries to sanction gold purchases, it's going to get really silly out there. It's going to get really silly. Janet Yellen has no say in what Putin does with his gold or how he deals with his gold. If you want to go to war with Vladimir Putin, probably a great way to do it is try to confiscate his gold or go after his gold. Because Putin understands that gold is the wealth of his nation, along with silver and all the natural resources they have. They have a lot of gold over in Russia, a lot they don't tell us about, obviously, just like the U.S. does. We don't have 8,000 tons of gold. We probably have over 1 million tons of gold. Not 8,000 tons, over 1 million tons of gold. Gold's a completely different world than what you've been told. Silver, on the other hand, the gold-silver ratio is going to be 1-to-1. If the bankers are lucky. 1-to-1. And it won't be at gold's at $2,000. It'll be at more like $20,000. Gold will be worth $20,000 and silver will be worth $20,000 or more if you can find it. Because silver's so much more valuable than gold on every level, on a monetary level, on an industrial level, obviously. The insanity of this Green New Deal and silver, just wrap your hands around this. Right now, about 2% of the energy produced in the United States is from solar panels. And currently, solar panels in the U.S., I think, are eaten up. No, it's globally. So this is all global. 2% is the number globally. And currently, we're eating up 120 million ounces. They want to increase that to 20%. 20% of the electricity production from solar panels, which is 10 times what it is today, because they have to make up for they don't want any more fossil fuels. So 10 times 120 million ounces is 1.2 billion ounces just for solar panels. That's the brilliant idea of AOC and friends and Joe Biden. The reality and the stupidity of that concept is playing out before our very eyes right now. These people are really stupid or really criminal or really both. I think they're really both, but some are just stupid. Hired actresses like AOC. I can't even talk about this, but the actor guy talk about the gun thing, and I'm like, do some research into that, and the ex-president's wife. You know what I'm talking about, that global initiative thing. His hands are all over that, and the island and all that. Oh my God. Ugh. This just gives me the shivers. Anyway, really interesting chart here. This was the last time the good guys tried to take down the system was 2008. And this is a chart of crude oil, 2007 to 2009 to 2008, right in here, the big peak, which was the attempted takedown on September 11th, 2008, is when they try to take down the system. We were hours away, and we are creeping up right on that same. I mean, you can't even write this stuff in a lousy novel. We're creeping right up there to September 11th again. We'll see what happens, but yeah, it's all happening right now on the road to Ruta. And if you've been following the road to Ruta, it's been a long road. 22 years doing this, and many people who have been with me since the GATA days, and we know what's going to happen. We just don't know when, and our job is to expose how this is going down. And so hang on tight. We're coming to the end of the road. Get your physical silver in your own possession. Get your gold, and then swap it for silver. You get 80 ounces. I think it's more than 80 ounces right now. That's just insane. There's so much more gold than they tell you. Massively more gold in every country. Russia has probably a couple 100,000 tons. China has even more than that, likely. They've been doing it for longer. The U.S. has everything in the ground. So just keep on keeping on. This game's almost over. If you have gold, swap it as fast as you can for as much silver as possible. That's my take. You want to join the Road to Ruta? Go to roadruta.com. Hit subscribe today, and for every 1-year subscription, we will send you a Ruta Lives coin, the coolest coin ever. Check out this video, and I'll talk to you later.